Oh, yeah. That's right. This is your host, Brando Puma, on the ones and the twos tonight because Jay Chima is on assignment, as they say in the journalism world. So he'll be back next week. But don't worry, because we got a sicko Wednesday night on the Pro Football Radio podcast. And like I said at the top, I'm your host, Brando Puma, and I am honored to have longtime friend of the pod, Freddy Stoliotis, aka Freddy, you're fired on the pod. So without further ado, Freddy making his PFR YouTube Live debut. Freddy, how the hell are you? Last time you were on here, it was 2020, and I mean, we got all the bells and whistles now, but we got live and in color. How you doing today?
Doing good. Appreciate you having me on. Good evening to everybody out there listening. My name's Freddy, aka Hercules 603 on some platforms, but got some big shoes to fill this week. I'll try to do my best for you.
It's gonna be great. Now, before we start, there was some news in the NFL, but we got to address this T-shirt.
Yep.
Are you wearing a Creed T-shirt?
Yes, sir.
As
you may or may not know, Creed has announced they're going back on tour, and without a little announcement, they dropped some new merchandise. Do you remember when they had that halftime? I think it was Thanksgiving 2001.
Yeah.
It was the Lions versus the Cowboys, and the halftime show was Creed. So that was like kind of like a core memory for me watching that halftime show. I saw this shirt. Like, okay.
The dude flying on like the bed sheets. It's like a thinned out Mr. Clean. Oh yes. My God. Exactly. That was the high water mark of halftime shows. Definitely.
Yes, sir.
That's fantastic. And it does hurt though. And I swear we're gonna get to football, but like seeing Creed, like it brings back the World Series and the Rangers, and I had a lot invested in the Arizona Diamondbacks. So Freddie, it's still too soon for me. So I'm not gonna say you have to do a wardrobe change right now, but if it was anyone else, I'd say go change.
Okay. Thanks for letting me put on here.
Now, before we get to the divisional round preview of the 4 games coming up this weekend, which is going to be loaded, I know the TV executives for CBS are just drooling about Chiefs and Bills in Buffalo. Before we hop down, Freddie, there was news that came out from Adam Schefter of ESPN that Mike McCarthy will be back as the Dallas Cowboys head coach this year. I mean, we can recap real quick. They got their teeth kicked in at home by Green Bay. The box score doesn't really indicate how out of hand that game was. But what's your initial thoughts on Mike McCarthy going back to Jerry World?
Yeah, so, as a Dallas -7 better, I was not too happy. That game was over pretty quickly. I was surprised, but at the same time, not surprised he's sticking around. I know a lot of the reporters after the game were, all around Jerry, hoping he'd make the announcement right then and there. He's out of here. He's out of town. But that wasn't the case. So they're sticking with him. And, we'll see if the Cowboys can change their script next year. Because right now they dominate the season, they get into the playoffs, and this is what you get.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you. I mean, I put this out on X or Twitter or whatever the hell you call it nowadays. When I saw the news come out, I'm not necessarily surprised. Logically, Bill or Mike Vrabel going there would have made too much sense. But I mean, Mike McCarthy's a puppet. Like he's going to dance to whatever Jerry wants to dictate from the owner's box, and there's just no way, Vrabel or Bill Belichick are going to do that. So I'm not surprised. It was kind of interesting seeing all the players rather rally around Mike McCarthy at the end of the game. So we'll see what kind of headway that makes into next season. But there's going to be a lot of changes. Like half that defense looks like they're going to be free agents. So there's only so much money to go around. But like they always say, there's always next year. So we'll see. All right, let's get to Sicko Wednesday night with the two D-gens of the Pro Football Radio podcast. First up, in the Saturday afternoon slate. We got the Houston Texans going on the road to Baltimore, going to the bank, M&T Bank Stadium, where the Texans right now, depending on what book you're at, we're getting 9.5 points. So the over 42.5. Freddie, what's your initial thoughts? It looks like you have a play on the total, but do you have any vibes on what side do you like? Anything at all?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I've been on the Ravens all year. It was actually my first NFL bet. I sent to you and Jay. I said, first NFL bet, screenshot it. Ravens to the Super Bowl. Ravens winning the Super Bowl. They're the number one seed. What are they? -9.5. I don't think they'll cover that, but I do think they will win. Yeah, 9.5 is a lot considering what we just saw CJ Stroud do in his last game against the Cleveland Browns defense, when nobody was really giving him a chance. Everybody was writing him off at home while he was at home. But yeah, that's kind of my initial thoughts there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm kind of like I have Baltimore winning this game. It's going to be like the old narrative of rust versus rest type of deal. I mean, the starters for Baltimore haven't played in almost 3 weeks. They sat out that Steelers game in like the monsoon because they had nothing to play for. They locked up the number 1 seed. And in reality, they started sitting starters after they started smoking out my Miami Dolphins coming out of halftime and that beatdown. About 4 weeks ago anyways. But, Mark Andrews looks like he's a full participant, which is insane considering like the ankle injury that he had. But I mean, the Texans on the road, I know CJ Stroud's home road splits aren't the best. I kind of like them getting 9.5 points. Like I lean towards them getting the points. It's like you said, 10's a big number. 9.5's a big number, especially in the playoffs. There's potentially weather, so it looks like it's going to rain. Wind might not be that big of a deal, but I like the Texans at least covering in the spot. But I have Baltimore punching their ticket to the AFC Championship game. I mean, this defense is it's elite, except in one area, and that's going to get to one of my player props in a minute. But I just have them being able to contain CJ Stroud. Now, they did play week 1. But the only difference is Laramie Tunsil's now going to be playing this matchup. He missed the first round because I think he had a shoulder injury or something like that. That offensive line was kind of in tatters the first week, but I kind of like Houston getting the spot. But Freddie, looking at the rundown, you got a player in the total. We got some player props. What's your thoughts on the total here?
So was it 43.5 there? I like the over, just based on what CJ did last week and the Baltimore Ravens offense. So CJ last week, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Browns. Nico Collins, 96 yards and a touchdown. Those are 2 guys that I'm probably going to look at making some DraftKings lineups with. I anticipate them playing from behind initially, so I think the Texans are going to have to air the ball out, and that's why I like the over.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I can buy the over a bit. I'm on a player prop here. I'm on Devin Singletary over 54.5 rush yards at -115. I got that late last night on DraftKings. Well, because he's gone over this number down the stretch the last 4 games. There is one aspect of this defense that you can, hurt the Baltimore Ravens, and that is in the run game. They have to give something up to be elite in all other facets of this defense. That is in the run game. They give up almost 4.5 yards a carry. I'm not worried about Singletary getting vultured by Pierce, the backup running back there. He's been a non-factor down the stretch. Singletary's been getting the lion's share of work here. I believe like the last 3 weeks, he's ended each game with about 76 rush yards. So, 54.5, it looks like a low number. I think he's going to smash over this, especially if there's going to be rain in the forecast. So I like Singletary over 54.5 rushing yards -115. Now, Freddie, you got a prop here too?
I like that too. I'll probably copy you on the Singletary prop. The prop I have for this game, If I mentioned it, it's Stroud throwing 2 touchdowns. It's for plus money right now. Like I said, they'll probably be playing from behind. I think he gets Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz involved early. Dalton Schultz only had 1 touchdown. One reception, but it was for a 37-yard touchdown, I believe, last week. He had 2 targets. One of the targets was kind of like he was in the flat, a lot of green ahead of him. He started running. He started running before he secured the ball, and I was like, I don't think that's going to happen again to him. So kind of over on their passing there. On the Baltimore side of things, I'll probably look at some Zay Flowers, see what he can do, see what that line's at. I might go over. Mark Andrews, hopeful to return, so he might be out there. I know that last week, I think the Texans actually struggled against the tight ends of the Browns. So I'm going to look at their tight end, see who's available, and maybe make some action there.
Nice. Yeah, I like the tight end look because Njoku was really like the only reliable person old man Joe Flacco could trust at times. So, he was gashing them for big yards. Yeah, that would be kind of wild if Mark Andrews could play. I like the Schultz look. I just have like PTSD from the Colts game where he had a couple of passes just hit him right in the hands or just like fingertips away, and they were drops. And as soon as I saw him drop that first target where there was nothing but daylight between him and the end zone, that Browns game, I almost punched the TV. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You're sure-handed Schultz, and now all of a sudden we got stone hands when the games count. This is great.
Yeah, you can tell he was mad at himself for that one.
Yep, but he made up for it. You found pay dirt, thank God. All right, so to the Saturday nightcap. I'm actually looking forward to this game, Freddie. Not just because I have action on it, but even if I didn't, it's going to be fantastic. We have the Packers going on the road again, about to be the road warriors of the NFL playoffs here, going up to Santa Clara. That's right, Santa Clara, because I refuse to say San Francisco. They do not play in San Francisco. They haven't played there since they tore down Candlestick Park. They're going up to the 49ers. 49ers laying 9.5, 10 points, depending on what book you're looking at. The over-under, last I looked, was at 50.5. Freddie, you got any thoughts? I have a ton of action on this game. Looks like you got some action too, but any leans, any thoughts on the side here?
So this is one of my first bets. I was, like a delinquent. I was up late at night, right when these lines are posted, and I saw the Packers and 49ers were the highest over-under at 50.5. And I'm like, all right, so they think it's going to be a shootout. I kind of want to go with the contrarian bet and bet the under here. Jordan Love has been great the past 4 weeks. Throughout the season, I was a hater at some points, but he kind of proved me wrong the last 4 weeks. But now I think he's facing a different defense. Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Fred Warner. I anticipate the Niners going up quick and then kind of protecting that lead and maybe being a little more run heavy than normal being in the playoffs. So that's kind of why I like the under in this game.
Nice. For me, sidewise, another one of those, like 10 is a lot in the playoffs. The Packers offense has been firing on all cylinders. I think since week 8, like pretty much since the Steelers game, like Jordan Love, who I've been high on since he entered the draft about 4 or 5 years ago. He's been lighting it up. I think he's got like 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions since that Steelers game. And down the stretch, the last 4 weeks, including the playoffs, the Packers have been averaging about 400 total yards a game. I like the Packers here. Like, give me the Packers plus 10. I also think like they're live to win this game. And I know that's a scary thought when you're looking at a Joe Barry defense and, Jair Alexander's, up in the air with his health status because he left that Dallas game with what looked like they're calling it an ankle injury, but he looked like he was in a lot of pain. But I have images, and this kind of plays into the under too, where I think the Green Bay Packers are going to try to have long, methodical drives. They're going to lean into the run game a bit with Aaron Jones, which gets to one of my prop plays in a minute. But, try to eat up clock, 4, 5, 6-minute drives. And I think even the 49ers are going to try to do that as well, too. And even, if they get up big, like you said, they might try to park the bus and just try to establish the run and bleed clock and get out of Dodge. So I think that, that would help out with the under as well, too. But give me the Packers. Give me the Packers plus 10. I haven't really looked at the money line. It's probably like plus 350 at some books here. To me, that might be worth a sprinkle because I do think they're live to win this game.
Wow. I mean,
I know.
It's tough for me to pick a side here because I've been burned by the Niners not covering at times when it should be an easy game. And, so that's kind of why I'm picking the under only on this. But you got faith in Jordan Love, huh?
I do have faith. I got a lot of faith in Jordan Love. And the other thing too, Freddie, and I'm probably going to get blowback for this, but I don't give a damn. Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius. But when it comes to brass tacks and the game's close and the game's on the line, we saw it in the Super Bowl when he was the OC for the Falcons. We saw it when he was in the Super Bowl with the 49ers when the Chiefs won their first title. When the game gets on the line, it gets a little tight. It gets a little tight. Like that pucker factor happens. And if this game's close, like I could see that happening. And that's, I'm not, contrary to what some people believe, I'm not a Brock Purdy hater. I'm just more of the system is what is making Brock Purdy what he is. And if that system starts glitching because the game's on the line, I think maybe Brock Purdy might get some happy feet and maybe Rashawn Gary plants him in the ground. That might happen. It might be a back-breaking game right there. But prop-wise, I'm all over the place. So let's lead off. I'm going to go with Aaron Jones combo line, rushing and receiving yards over 96.5. I got that early yesterday on DraftKings at minus 115. I think we kind of cover our bases with two scenarios where, one, they want to try to establish the run and bleed the clock out. And two, if they start falling behind, they're going to have to lean into Aaron Jones's pass catching ability. And I think his receiving yards could get us to the promised land. So 96.5, it looks like a big number against this 49ers defense, but they've averaged about 30 receiving yards given up to running backs and about 45, 50 rushing yards to running backs on the, throughout the regular season. So it's going to be a bit of a sweat. It's not going to be the prettiest of things, but I think we're going to get over here. And I'm loading up on George Kittle this week. And this is only because I think Kyle Shanahan, for all the crap I just said about him and his game calling down the stretch, he is also, like I said, an offensive genius and is going to be able to look and see what Jake Ferguson for Dallas did last week against this Green Bay Packers defense, where I think Ferguson went for like 10 receptions for 93 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, albeit a lot of that was in garbage time. Well, all that entire game was garbage time. And I'm saying that as a guy that had Dallas minus 7.5 as well, too. But this defense can be had in the middle of the field with the tight end position. I know it's a dangerous game trying to figure out which 49ers player is going to get theirs, but I think Kittle is going to go over 4.5 receptions at plus 130 from DraftKings yesterday. And also George Kittle over 51.5 receiving yards. I would not be surprised if we wake up in a world on Sunday where George Kittle has 6 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown or 2. So I think we're going to get over to the promised land with George Kittle receptions, receiving yards, Aaron Jones. Let's lock it in. There is a world where all these can happen, Freddie, and we all go to the pay window with fat ass wallets at the end of the day. So it's gonna be a great time having a party at the pay window. Now, next is your beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers going on the road to Ford Field to the, I guess, America's new team, the Detroit Lions. The fighting Dan Campbell's laying 6.5 points. The over-under is 48.5 on a Sunday afternoon delight. Who do you got? What do you like?
So this one might be my favorite game. A little biased because, the NFC team for me is the Bucs. You're allowed to have more than one team,
We're degenerates, Freddie. We can have all the teams we want, dude.
I do love the Bucks, but I like the Bucks plus 6.5. They have a great record at covering the spread. The Lions do too. They actually have an identical record for covering the spread, and that is, I believe it's 12-6. They're both 12-6, but the difference is when the Bucks are on the road against the spread, they're 8-1. So statistic wise, I kind of doing a little deep diving today. I like that. I like that I'm on this side. I like Baker Mayfield to throw 2 touchdowns. I've cashed that one quite a bit over the past couple of weeks. Gone to it back and back. It's plus odds still. Let me see. Check some of my notes here. So Mike Evans didn't have a big game last week.
And a lot of drops
that
hindered that big game.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a different story for him. I like him a lot against this Lions secondary. I think he's going to torch them. I'm probably going to do bet on 2 touchdowns for him. That is cash for me at one point in the season as well. It's very nice. So, that's kind of why I'm on 6.5 for the Bucks. How are you feeling about this game?
I'm right there with you. Like, I love Detroit. I love the Detroit Lions. They've been a great story. Granted, I was the psycho at the start of the year that said the Packers could win the NFC North. And I guess if the season started in November, that very well could have been the case. But alas, that's not how it works. I like the dogs this week, man. Like I get like the Bucks getting 6.5 on the road, and it's going to be, a raucous environment in Detroit. But, we saw what this Buccaneers defense did against Jalen Hurts. And I understand that the massive grain of salt is the Philadelphia Eagles have been in free fall since that overtime win against the Buffalo Bills. But the fact of the matter is we all know what Jared Goff is like when he gets pressure in his face and he gets the happy feet. And we kind of saw that a little bit coming out of halftime in the Rams game, where that offense, for all the fireworks and firepower that they had in the first half against the Rams, like they started sputtering. They only had 3 points that entire second half. And if it was for the Rams just stalling in the red zone every time, they might not be playing today. And Tampa Bay might actually be going on the road to Inglewood to play the Rams. I think we're going to see a lot of engage 8 again by Todd Bowles. Every time I saw him bringing the blitz and bringing the pressure, I just harkened back to my days playing Madden, where I was just doing engage 8 all the time. So I think that's going to happen. And your point on the Detroit Lions secondary, spot on. I've been on this pod this year a lot saying that the Lions secondary to me is going to be the biggest hindrance for a playoff run. And we saw Baker Mayfield spinning it a bit, and that secondary wasn't that great either against the Philadelphia Eagles. And a lot of business decisions were being made, and CJ Gardner-Johnson's already starting to talk that ish about Baker. We know how Baker is. I mean, we can just go back to college and see how Baker handles trash talk. So I like them getting 6.5. I'm kind of hoping for some reason, like late money comes in on Detroit and it pushes it up to 7, but I don't think the books are going to do that. I'll probably end up hopping on it at 6.5 with you, but give me the dogs, give me the Bucks getting the points here.
Yep. CJ Gardner-Johnson with that comment. He said if the Bucks had a good quarterback, they would be great. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
What are you doing? This Baker plays with the chip on his shoulder as it is, and now you're going to add some fuel to the fire.
Yes.
His teammates must have been like, buddy, what are you doing? Just
the game. Yeah, remember the last time he spoke with like, hey, everyone show up at Ford Field with the blue ski mask, and then that's the game you tore your pec. Like, let's not stand on business, as the kids say nowadays. Now, looks like we got some, you have the Baker Mayfield over 1.5 touchdowns that you hit on. Looks like you like the over because of the secondary being a trash can. For me, all I got is I got a special teams prop. I'm not a big field goal kicker prop guy, But Chase McLaughlin over 1.5 field goals at even money plus 100 as of yesterday on DraftKings. I mean, we saw what this Rams team did when they got in the red zone. They sputtered. They settled for like 6 field goals. And I mean, granted, they covered the spread, which helped my day, especially after that Dallas beating. But that kind of plays into Todd Bowles doing Todd Bowles things and settling for field goals. So I think over 1.5 is like my lock of the week for sure. And then the other one, I'm going to go back to the well. I was on Kate Otten over receiving yards last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm going to go back to the well. Give me Kate Otten over 27.5 receiving yards. I got that on Fanatics yesterday as well, too. Over 27.5, minus 114. Drops aside, he still had a fantastic stat line against the Philadelphia Eagles. And this Detroit Lions defense has been generous to the tight end position. They average about 50 receiving yards per game to the tight end position throughout the regular season. And I think, with Aiden Hutchinson trying to live in the backfield for, to bring pressure on Baker Mayfield, I think Kate Otten is going to be one of those safety valves for Baker. If it's not going to be Rashad White, it's going to be Kate Otten settling into the zone, settling underneath in the intermediate routes here for the quick outlets. So, 27.5 yards. Yeah, that to me, that's anything under like 35 is a go for me.
That should be a gimme. And with Kate Otten, before I got on, I was looking at the first touchdown scorer props, and I was surprised that I think they had the Lions had worse odds than him. He has better odds than the Lions defense. Kate Otten plus 2,200 first touchdown. I did a little sprinkle on that myself.
Oh,
kind of late breaking news. I know I didn't get it to you. But
it's fine. It's fine. We can add that anytime we freaking want. I'm not a big first touchdown guy, but there's a first time for everything. So we might dabble in that a little bit this week. So now to the creme de la creme, the granddaddy of them all, as they would call the Rose Bowl. But that's going to be this matchup for the divisional game. We got the Kansas City Chiefs leaving the confines of Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, also known as Planet Hoth last week against the Dolphins, going on the road for the first time in the playoffs under the Patrick Mahomes era to Buffalo Bills, Highmark Stadium, New Era Field, whatever the hell you guys call it now in Buffalo. The Bills. It's this line. This line's been going back and forth all day from 2.5 to 3, back down to 2.5. I think the consensus right now in a lot of books is 3. But you got some action. I got some action in this game too. What do you like? You like a side in this game? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm picking the Chiefs in this. I got them plus 3 and the money line. This is kind of, I'm a Patriots fan, as you know. I don't like either of these teams. I kind of lean into betting against teams I don't like. In this case, I don't like either team. But I think this is a Josh Allen legacy game when it comes down to it. Can he beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to do it this week. Looking at the body of his work over the season, he had 18 interceptions. Granted, the Bills, I think they won their last 6 games. But before that, it was, this is a bounce back game. This is the Bills bounce back game. This is the Bills bounce back game. Give me the Chiefs. These teams played before. The Bills won by a field goal, and if you remember that was the game where Kadarius Toney was offsides. So the go-ahead touchdown was called back. I think he's going to be on sides this game. I think all the Chiefs receivers are going to make sure they're on sides. But yeah, I see. The wide receiver Rice, he's going to get a lot of work, and of course Travis Kelce. I might take an over of his, depending on where the line's at. But I think he's going to Patrick Mahomes is going to focus on those 2 receivers and have himself a day. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm with you there on the spread. I like the Chiefs plus 3. I do think that this is going to be like the one time that Josh Allen slays the dragon in the playoffs and beats Patrick Mahomes, especially at home. Highmark Stadium is just going to be freaking insane. And who knows, like our luck, there's probably going to be like a blizzard Friday into Saturday. There's going to be like snow all over the place like last week. And, it's just going to be insane seeing people throwing snowballs in the air after every Bills touchdown or point scored. But I'd rather be on the side with the Chiefs getting points here. Patrick Mahomes as a underdog is 8-1-1 against the spread. And then out of those like 10 games, he's won 7 of those straight up. It's just, I like the Chiefs getting the points. And the other side too is the Bills are the walking wounded right now, the injured list, especially on the defensive side of the football. A lot of their linebacking core is on the injured list. Some of those guys have been day to day, but was it Rasul Douglas? He's questionable. I'm not holding my breath on Gabe Davis actually playing this week, so that's going to be a big loss on the offensive side of the football again. Like they got away with it against the Steelers because the Steelers are just inept, and I'm saying that as a guy that thought Pittsburgh could cover 10, possibly win outright. But I'm going to go with Mahomes getting points for sure. I think this is going to be a close game. It's probably going to be a 2-point victory by Buffalo, but I'll take the 3 with the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you like Kansas City, get it now because it's been going back and forth all day. Don't be holding a ticket that's 2.5 because when it comes down to 2 points, you're going to want to kick yourself for missing that field goal. Looks like this is probably a popular game on the prop market. So, Freddy, it looks like you like Isaiah Pacheco.
I do, and mostly because who the starting running back is. But some of these teams, they split the backfield. But, I think maybe the Chiefs did that in the beginning of the season, but then it was clear that Pacheco was the guy. He just runs hard. He's a dog. And if kind of the way I'm imagining this game, if it goes the way I think with the Chiefs up, then they're going to keep feeding him. So that's, I think he gets over, I think it was 65 or 60 something. I think
62 and a half. That's what you got it at.
Yep.
Yeah, he runs pissed, dude. Like he runs like he is trying to get over like some schoolyard bully from the playground when he was a kid. Like he's just taking all that anger and frustration out on a poor soul just trying to make a tackle. Pride and joy of Rutgers. I mean, that's some Big Ten football right there. So good God. And how he only had he had a shoulder injury. He only missed like a week or two. It's just bananas to me. Prop wise, I like the quarterback rushing props. So start off with Josh Allen over 40.5 rush yards. I mean, this dude, when it is like you got to have it moments, he really starts to use his legs more, especially in the playoffs. I mean, in his playoff career, I believe he averages about 50, 51 rush yards, per game, essentially. So 40.5, he's going to be using his legs. He's going to try to move the chains, especially with, the Kansas City Chiefs have been a little bit thin. They have had issues stopping the run. And also he's going to try to escape, Chris Jones coming after him as well too on that defensive side of the football for the Chiefs. So over 40.5 rush yards, minus 115. Yes. Lock it in. I think he's going to smash over that. And then the other one, Patrick Mahomes over 25.5 rush yards. Another one where the playoffs come. He's going to use his legs more. He's going to move the chains. He's going to waddle, or as Jay would say, he's going to waddle the chains and get those cheapo rush yards here. So I think he's definitely going to get that. He averages, I believe it's about 35 rush yards throughout his playoff career here too. So give me all those rush yards here. I was kind of leaning towards rush attempts, because I think the line was at 4.5 at a plus number, but I don't know. I'm factoring in kneel downs as well too. He might get over 25.5 rush yards on just 2 attempts and then call it a day. Right. So I'll just target the rush yards at this point. But that's all I like here. So early look ahead here. I mean, we're kind of going off the script here because we didn't really plan on it, but I just thought of it. So you like the Chiefs in your bracket of things. You like the Chiefs against Baltimore. They'd be going over to Baltimore here.
Yep.
Like, what would you make that line? And then what would your lean? I'm guessing you would be all in on Baltimore too, because you're holding the Lamar MVP ticket, right? So we're all in on B more.
Yeah. So if it's Chiefs and Baltimore, I don't know. What do you think that line would be? Probably like around 5, 6, maybe.
Like maybe I could buy 5.
Yeah.
I think that's like on the high end. Like I could anything between 2.5 and 5. And I know that says absolutely nothing, but like, I mean, look at this game here. I mean, the Chiefs have been bouncing back and forth between 2.5, 3 points. I think, you're probably going to get 4, 5, 5.5 tops on Baltimore, especially factoring home field advantage. But I guess, dude, give me Baltimore, man. I feel like it's time. And I'm not just saying that because you're on the pod. I think this team has been like keeping a lot of poster, bulletin board material and all the rumblings about Lamar Jackson in the offseason. I think they're taking it personally, in the words of Michael Jordan. So I would have Baltimore winning and punch their ticket to the Super Bowl. I guess this is kind of where we differ. Like, I like the Packers winning outright on Saturday. You like the 49ers. We're kind of in agreement on Tampa Bay being live at times too. But I mean, like, if it's 49ers Detroit, what are your thoughts? And then I guess if it's the other side of the coin, any leans there too.
Yeah. I hate to just say I'm taking the number 1 seed all the way, but yeah, it's going to be the Niners from the NFC side. I would love to see, them play the Lions or the Bucks. Either way, I think it'll be a fun game to watch. But yeah, it's going to be the 2 number 1 seeds. That's my take on it. I have futures on both of them, and I don't like to hedge my bets. So I like to either win or lose, because if you hedge your bets and it doesn't work out the way you're expecting to, it just doesn't feel like winning. So yeah, I'm gonna go Niners NFC side, the Ravens AFC side, and from there it's tough. But I'll lean towards the Ravens, because if this isn't their year, when is? You know what I mean? MVP season, it's pretty much already decided for Lamar. You got primetime OBJ, which I might be looking at some of his props live to see, just because you know how those the odds like to shoot up during in-game props. Might be looking at him. But yeah, I'm gonna lean. If I had to say right now, I'd say Ravens, Super Bowl champs.
I can buy that. Baltimore, Green Bay, F it. I mean, if you want to get nuts, it would be Baltimore, Green Bay for me. Just granted, you're taking it with a massive grain of salt, because I have a lot of bias for Jordan Love here. But reality land, I think is going to be San Francisco, Baltimore, and I would go Baltimore as well too. We saw what these teams did, halfway through the season on Sunday Night Football, where, I mean, the 49ers just got kicked the 49ers got 49ered in that game. And that was bananas to see, because, nobody does that to the San Francisco 49ers. So it was kind of hilarious to see that happen. Yeah, that's all we got for the divisional round breakdown. A little teaser on some leans that we liked for the upcoming, championship game weekend. But we're going to do a little bets recap. So let me catch my breath here. So on the Freddy side of the house, we have the Texans Ravens over 45.5 minus 110. CJ Stroud over 1.5 passing touchdowns at a juicy plus 135. Packers 49ers under 50.5 minus 115. Bucks plus 6.5. I think I had a typo here. You got it at 6.5 right before we recorded. So Bucks plus 6.5. It's the official lock for this episode here. Bucks Lions over 48.5. Baker Mayfield over 1.5 passing touchdowns plus 130. We have a lock agreement at Chiefs plus 3. And then you're on the player prop, Isaiah Pacheco over 62.5 rush yards. And to the Puma side of the house, Devin Singletary over 54.5 rush yards. Packers plus 10. We're also going to come back and probably put a little bit on the Packers money line as well, too. Aaron Jones over 96.5 rushing receiving yards. George Kittle day. George Kittle over 4.5 receptions. George Kittle over 51.5 receiving yards. Josh Allen built like a brick shithouse over 40.5 rush yards. Chiefs +3. Mahomes over 25.5 rush yards. Cade Otton over 27.5 receiving yards. Tight end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the lone special teams defense prop thus far, Chase McLaughlin, field goal kicker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, over 1.5 field goals made at even money.
I love that.
It's going to be great. It's going to be a fantastic weekend of football, Freddie, and we're going to be cashing tickets, and we'll have to do like a DGen recap next week as well, too. So keep an eye out for that StreamYard invite. But Freddie, where can the good people of the PFR universe find you on social media? Plug yourself.
Sure. So Pickett, I'm sharing more of my bets, trying to get a little more of a following. If you go on Pickett, it's Hercules 603, just like down there. Instagram, if you want to follow me there, Hercules 2424. And I'm also going to shout out my Twitch because why not? I do stream video games sometimes. Hercules 603 there as well. So thanks for the plug.
My man, I gotta get more involved in Twitch. I feel like if I do Twitch and I start gaming, like that's gonna be the nail in the coffin for my marriage. Like the better half deals with so much of my sports nonsense. Like if I started gaming, that's it. I
feel that.
I'll be a free agent. But we're gonna get out of here. This episode of the Pro Football Radio Podcast and previous episodes of the podcast can be found on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever else you get your podcasts on demand. YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button. You get notified when we're about to go live. Socials, Facebook, Instagram, Pro Football Radio Podcast. I'm on Twitter, Brando_Puma. PFR Podcast on Twitter as well, too. The captain of the ship, Jay Chima, he'll be back next week on the ones and the twos. He's on Twitter or X at Jay Chima. Now, Freddie, I gotta say this. Freddy Soliotis, you're fired!
Thank you. I love it. Vaya con Dios.